Chris, if you had a wish and it came through, what would that be for Braden?
Well, I would love for him to be able to communicate with us and tell us how he's doing. Just to see it. Just,
And that's interesting because my last question was going to be,
just to hear his voice.
yeah, if Braden could talk, what would be the first thing he would say to you and Melanie?
I would think he would probably say thank you and I love you.
Chris B, welcome. Please introduce yourself.
What's going? I am Chris B. My son Braden, we call him Bray Bray. He's 11 and a half years old. He was born with a rare genetic disorder called GNAI1. What that means for us is that my wife Melanie and I made a conscious decision a very long time ago to embrace the hand that we're dealt. Braden has many special needs. He's in a wheelchair. He doesn't talk. He doesn't walk. With all that said, he's the happiest kid in the world.
Thank you for that. I want to say that we've been friends for 5 years, connected through pickleball, the fastest growing addiction in the US and spreading elsewhere. The one thing that always associated us was the way you speak about Bray Bray, your incredible devotion, the way you and Melanie balance your life so beautifully. Where
Braden was born on November 5th, 2014. And obviously, it changed our lives. We're first time parents, and we were, like any other first time parents, happy that this moment has arrived. It took us a few years to have Braden. We went through a lot just to get to that point with fertility treatments, which is very common these days. And we were so blessed. In that hospital room, he was born. And we were just like any other first time parents for those first 3 or 4 months. It was just, my God, we have this amazing child that's ours. And that moment is a moment I'll never forget. We were very excited. And up until he was 4.5 months old, we figured, okay, this is our parenting journey. And that's when we noticed at 4.5 months old that things might be different.
did it take that long to realize that something was not the same thing as you would expect at that point in his developmental stage? Or were there early signs before that?
Sure. So the earliest sign for us was maybe he was 3 months old, and we noticed he wasn't tracking. He wasn't following us with his eyes. And that's one of the first milestones, right? Being able to identify your parents or looking at them. We noticed his eyes were kind of drifting, like he was looking up at the lights and looking around, but he wasn't really looking at us. When he was 4 months old, we decided we were going to try to get an evaluation. And by the time we were going to get the evaluation from early intervention services and get a neurologist involved, that's when he had his first big red flag, which was seizures. We didn't even know they were seizures at the time. He was about 5 months old. And at first we thought it was indigestion because he would basically lift his head up and drop it. We thought maybe he was having trouble swallowing or having an issue with his digestive tract. And after we looked into it a little bit, we need to go to the neurologist now. And it turned out that he was having seizures known as infantile spasms, which is a baby form of epilepsy. Again, another rare condition, not as rare as his genetic diagnosis that we got years later. But that was the first big challenge for us, was taking him to the hospital right from the neurologist's office, being in the hospital for 7 days when he's 5 months old, and addressing the seizure issue with a very powerful medication that we then ended up having to inject ourselves into his legs. It was a hormone called ACTH. It knocked out the seizures, and the neurologist definitely saved his life in that regard. But then the road ahead was a lot harder than we ever thought we'd have.
So seizures, visual tracking. What about his motor development?
Yeah, I mean, once he was in the hospital and once we got that first big red flag with the infantile spasms, the follow-ups with the neurologist involved a lot of EEGs, which is a scan of his brain activity. And we knew his brain was not completely normal from that point forward. It led to a cerebral palsy diagnosis, which is like brain injury. So, from the visual tracking issue, definitely the motor skills were not there. We're going to have his first steps, we're going to have his first words. And here we are, almost 12 years later. We haven't had those milestones. He hasn't walked and he hasn't talked. It's been a long road.
So, Chris, he's diagnosed with something that there are only 24, 25 people in the US that have that disorder. And our previous conversations, the actual diagnosis came out when he was 8, right?
Yes.
So it's an 8 years of, yeah, maybe he has seizures, maybe he has cerebral palsy, right? What did it do to you and Melanie when you actually got the diagnosis?
When Braden first presented his issues at 5.5 months old, we did full genetic testing. And so you're doing full genetic testing in 2015. Nothing came up. When Braden turned 8 years old, for just purposes of different agencies, that when the child turns 8, they want to just get more of a handle on everything. We did full genetic testing again, and it was more comprehensive than the first round. So, in that 8 year period, when we did the full genetic testing, very lightly researched genetic mutation called GNAI1 popped up on Braden's testing. And we are enrolled in the study with Braden for any future research. What it did for us was two things. One, it gave us an answer as, okay, he was born this way, and there's nothing we could have done to change that. The second thing that happened was my wife, Melanie, was carrying a lot of guilt and a lot of emotion about the childbirth. She was always questioning, what did we do wrong? It was very hard for her. It was a lot harder for her to grieve the life that he might have had and embrace the life he does have truly and 100% without thinking something went wrong somewhere along the way. And that diagnosis helped Melanie really become Melanie again. Like, it helped her really understand that we've always done the best for him, but it really helped her close that chapter of looking into, oh, why did this happen? It just happened. It
Yeah.
was that unfortunate draw that we got. And for me, as a loving husband, and we've been together now over 20 years and married for 17 years this July, it really helped me see her full recovery. And she's always been a shining light this whole time, but it just shines even brighter. I always say I'm with the two biggest angels on this planet, my wife and my son.
Tell me about, probably there's no such thing as a typical day for you, but what's a day and the type of routine you have with Bray Bray from the moment he wakes up till the moment he goes to sleep?
It's not easy after a pretty quiet period where Braden was not in any medical danger. 2 years ago, on May 16th, 2024, unfortunately, the seizures came back, reared their ugly head. And at the same exact time, Braden had an unspecified infection. So he was in the hospital again from May 16th, 2024 to June 13th, 2024, 26 days in the pediatric ICU. And the first 7 days in the hospital, when he was fighting for his life, it could have gone either way. We almost lost him. And we didn't. And thank God we didn't. And he pulled through. So in the last 2 years, a typical day with Braden is him waking up, usually between 5:30 and 6:30 a.m. Most of the time, thankfully, he wakes up happy. We check his oxygen. We monitor his CPAP mask that he had on overnight to make sure everything was good overnight. Make sure there were no drops in his oxygen because one of the conditions he now has is obstructive sleep apnea. So we monitor him medically. Then we feed him. First, we have to transfer him. So we have this motorized bed that we fought for that goes fully up and down. And we transfer my 100-pound child from his bed to his wheelchair. And after we change him and dress him and get him into his wheelchair, we feed him. And luckily, he's a good Italian boy and he's never had any trouble eating other than when he was so weak that he needed a feeding tube. But luckily, that wasn't permanent. If it's a weekday, he does go to school with a private nurse. He goes on the bus, he has therapies at school. And then I'm lucky that my job lets me work from home in the afternoons to take him off the bus. And from there, it's like a 3 hour sprint from 3 o'clock to 6 or 7 o'clock, getting him off the bus, making sure he doesn't need another change, therapies coming to the house on top of the therapies that we get at school. So physical therapy, occupational therapy, vision therapy, music therapy, speech therapy, you name it, we do it. And from there, feeding him dinner. And then it depends. Most of the time on a typical weeknight, we'll get him settled for bed. My wife is usually working until 8 o'clock at night. So there's a couple of days a week where it's just on me to do it. And then she'll take the mornings. Sometimes we just try to do a team effort. But he does need 24/7 supervision. And sometimes at nights when the fun begins, Sev, because when he's in a deep sleep, his oxygen might drop. We might need to do extra treatments. We have a chest vest that we can put on if we need to. We have a suction machine if he's sick because he can't clear himself out. So we have all of the therapies that they would give us or interventions that they would give us at a hospital. We have had to learn how to do it ourselves.
How do you know he's not doing well when he's sleeping? You have alarms?
We have alarms. We have a pulse ox hooked up to him. We have two different types of pulse ox monitoring. One is a ring that he can keep on, and if it goes under a certain level, it'll beep on our phones automatically. The attending at Cohen's Children's Medical Center recommended that to us after he was discharged in June of 2024. We also have a regular pulse ox that attaches to his toe. And if anything goes down, it'll sound really loud alarms. And we'll run in there and make sure he doesn't need any extra treatments and address it from there.
And for people that are not familiar with some of the terms, the pulse ox is the thing people usually go to doctor, things that put you on your finger to measure the level of oxygen in your blood. The CPAP is for adults are more familiar with people that have severe snoring. They actually choke when they sleep. And this kid's got to sleep with all these technologies in order to make sure that he's okay. You also mentioned a fairly long list of treatments. And so everybody that doesn't understand always does not know what it's like to care for a child with disabilities. It's not that the treatments are optional, right? Not like, oh, nice, he has music therapy. No, those treatments are ongoing because if you stop them, the child regresses. But when it comes to actual disabilities, when it comes to muscular atrophy and mobility, you need the massage therapy, you need the OT, you need the PT. It's not a choice. And the reason I bring this up is because every single thing you mention has a cost associated with, right?
Yes.
Part of it is the schools have to provide it for him because of the American with Disabilities Act law that was passed. I also know that schools fight against giving services because it's a huge strain on the school budget. It's not easy to deal with it. We'll talk about public enemy number one, insurance, in a second. But you mentioned a bed. I know you told me in the past when you needed a bed for Braden, the insurance company wanted to give you a hospital bed, right? And you had to
Mhm.
fight tooth and nail to say, no, this kid's not in hospice. He's in a home. He needs a bed like everybody else, right? How much does a bed like that cost? Just so we have an idea.
$184.
No cents. You
It's
round
in,
off the cents, right?
I swear to you, it's embedded in my brain
Got it.
because he leaves the hospital and a hospital bed, first of all, it doesn't give us everything we need for him because one thing about a hospital bed, they have railings, but he could still roll through them. It's not safe. It's not like a nurse is watching over him 24/7. So even that wouldn't have worked. My son's not a hospice patient. He's a kid. And the last thing I wanted in our home was reminders of him being in the hospital. And we're still going through as a family the PTSD of that, surviving the ICU and having survivor's guilt because your son lived and other families didn't have that luxury. That's a whole nother story. But we get home, he's discharged. And from there, oh, yeah, good luck with everything. And it's like, first of all, we get home and not all the equipment that we are supposed to get was here. Oh, his oxygen concentrator isn't here. Oh, do we have to go back to the hospital for another night because it wasn't delivered on time by the supplier? But the bed, we fought tooth and nail and they deny, deny, deny. Even with good insurance and Medicaid, didn't matter.
So
We'll give
just
you.
so just we put some price tag. So the bed is 10,200. The wheelchair that he has, it's not a wheelchair that somebody takes you on a plane with. It's a wheelchair
Mhm.
for bravery, right? And the car, the caravan, it's how old now?
So that car is a 2018 Dodge Grand Caravan.
Okay.
We got it 8 years ago and it has like almost 100,000 miles on it because that's his primary method of
Mm.
transportation when he's not taking the bus to school. So you're talking about every therapy appointment, every family vacation, everything we do with him is in that car. We don't have a second van because it's expensive. It's not like I could just up and get another van like at the drop of a hat. So, and then when it needs to be serviced, we have to go to the actual mobility dealership. We got to get the ramp checked. We got to get the wheel locks checked. You got to get every part of that van checked because if one thing goes wrong, if the ramp's not working, I can't get him out of the car safely. It's always constant maintenance and constant checks. That's a really big purchase. We took out a loan and finance like everybody else. Getting a special rider on the insurance, paying extra car insurance because they tacked on a rider and it's a more expensive. Things add up. The bed really pissed me off the most because you're talking about his sleep. That means he has sleep apnea, right? So you would think a kid with sleep apnea would get the bed easier than even everything else. And then on top of all that, they tell us he has sleep apnea and it takes 13 months just to get the CPAP mask. So for a year, my wife and I were taking turns being up at 3 o'clock in the morning, making sure my son's still breathing.
Why did he take you mean insurance to cover it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't want to cover it. They kept saying, oh, well, this sleep study, we didn't get enough data because he didn't get into REM sleep. Why do you think he didn't get into REM sleep?
You know,
And then this one, we needed more data. This one, we needed more data. And it's exasperating, but you know what? We will fight tooth and nail for everything. And you know what, Zev? This is the thing that really, really gets to me the most. I'm educated. My wife is educated. My wife works in a hospital. Like, we know how to do all of this and what it takes to do all of this. Those poor families that don't have the education or the resources or the bandwidth, or maybe English isn't their first language. Like, I feel so bad for these families. So every time I fight for Braden, I feel like I'm not just fighting for.
yeah, and
The poem is called The Hours. I close my eyes in the only hour where my time is not devoured. I'd rather nap to peaceful ocean sounds than get lost in paperwork mounds. The insurance company might not care. I'll fight and claw to get us there. It's 1:15 on another Monday. My eyes just need a break today. I'd dream of him performing miracles defying the empirical. He wouldn't be tongue-tied on the train tracks. He'd ask me for his favorite snacks. He'd rise up from his wheelchair and stand and frolic in the Jones Beach sand. I'd watch him run around in the sunlight. We'd all laugh and dance on his wedding night. I'd dry my tears in the lonely hour and climb the paperwork tower. Of course, it will get filled out and filed, and they'll give us bathroom tiles. We'll get shower chairs and portable ramps. My hands keep writing through the cramps. We'll call to fix all the creaks in his wheels and carefully feed him his meals. He looks at me on this evening hour. His laugh gives me newfound power. He unties me from those stubborn tracks. He laughs as he chews on his fruit snacks. We take summer trips and he claps his hands, making splashes in the Lake George sand. I hold him close in the August moonlight. We will all sleep soundly tonight. The time frame freezes at this late hour. His sweetness overtakes the sour.
Very well. Chris, take a deep breath. I have just two more questions. Take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Braden is in bed. He's sleeping. No alarms. It's 9 o'clock. You're exhausted. Melanie just came from work, right? You sit on the couch. You're just craving that break, the thing you kind of mentioned before. What do you say to each other?
I've been with Melanie for over 20 years and we have gotten through so much together and we have that foundation, which we're very blessed to have. And we laugh, we put on a show that we like, we listen to some music to unwind. We really focus on the positive. If it's a hard day or a heavy day, we give each other the time and the space to listen to and be there for each other. We tend to be breaking down at different times, so we'll lift each other up when we need to. Our big snack right now that we look forward to almost every night is apples with peanut butter. It just adds a little nice nightcap to the day as we're both going on weight loss journeys right now. That's the other thing. You want to talk about the emotional toll and the physical toll of caregiving? For the 2 years since Braden was in the hospital, I was not taking care of myself physically as much as I was playing pickleball and exercising. And it's only in the past 3 months that I finally had the bandwidth to start taking care of myself again. So that's another thing we're doing now is we're trying to get back to our best physical forms of ourselves because as you said, we're not getting any younger. And as much as we're doing it to like feel good, we're also doing it to make sure we're here for him as long as we can be.
So I want to again mention, because I didn't really specifically talk about it, why I wanted to do this to help you and Melanie with some of the incredible bills and financial pressure that you don't deserve. This is for me more than just a pickleball community. This is reaching out to people that I know and people that are going to see this. For somebody to have a heart and say, I'm blessed to not go through this. When I was a graduate school professor, I used to tell my students at the end of each day, when you're in the bathroom and you're brushing your teeth, ask yourself, have I made a difference in someone else's life? It could be a stranger and it could be somebody you know. If somebody watching us and listening to this incredible story, if you haven't made a difference in someone else's life, this is an opportunity. To me, you're an amazing role model as a dad, as a husband. There are people that are watching us that have bad marriages and marriages on the brink of breakup and arguments every night. And I will tell all of them, stop, take a deep breath, okay? Look at this guy. You don't understand what it's like. And they're still making it happen and they're together and they support each other. There was a book, I have it somewhere. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's only the small
Oh
stuff,
yeah, I know.
right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Your
Yep.
stuff is not small. What I'm saying is for people that are watching us and are sweating the small stuff, but arguing and over nonsense, here's your opportunity to do something that's different. I want to ask you, read the poem that you wrote last time, if you have it handy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have
I
one
do.
final question.
Sure. First, before I read this next poem, I just want to say thank you to you, Pete Holden, Rebecca Torres, and Andy Morales. You four have been very instrumental in helping put this together. I couldn't have done it without you, Pete, and Rebecca all reaching out to me and asking if it would be okay. So I do appreciate that. This poem is called Shave. I thought I'd teach you how to shave as you ask me about cologne. You'd say it's only men's perfume. We'd laugh. I'd hold that sound like stone. I know I'd miss you as you grew. You'd go to Binghamton like me. We'd talk briefly between classes. I'd stare at the empty driveway. You'd come back around in due time, filled with mid-20s hopes and fears. You'd swear you think you found the one. We'd talk about it over beers. We'd never forget your big day. Your mom would cry during the vows. We'd pop champagne. I'd close my eyes. I wake up now to laughing sounds. You're happy and clapping in bed. And today you reach for my hand. I transfer you to your wheelchair. You smile as if to thank me. I thought I'd teach you how to shave, and you'd ask me about cologne. We won't laugh over men's perfume. I hold your bravery like stone.
Chris, if you had a wish and it came through, what would that be for Braden?
Well, I would love for him to be able to communicate with us and tell us how he's doing. Just to see it.
And that's interesting because my last question was going to be,
Just to hear his voice.
yeah, if Braden could talk, what would be the first thing he would say to you and Melanie?
I would think he would probably say thank you and I love you.
I'm going to say it for him, Chris. Thank you for being who you are. And I love you, man.
Appreciate that. You guys have been so supportive. I love you guys too.
Okay, so we'll end on a positive note. That one day you're going to call us and say, holy crap, this happened. We just don't know, right? You just don't know.
Yeah.
You just got to keep doing what you're doing and the miracle can happen. Thank you for sharing. And I will let everybody know I support you and Melanie. We're going to use Venmo. We're not going to use GoFundMe because those people take too much money and it's not right.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Chris.
Appreciate it, Zeb.
You're
Thank
my
you.
Hey, buddy. Yeah, you want to say good morning? Yeah. Good morning. It's a beautiful morning. Yeah. Hi. Clap, clap, clap. That's what I like to see, buddy. Happy Bray Bray, good morning. Yeah. Love you, buddy.